Blog Talk Radio.
Energy was going to be a lot liver than it was last night, right? All right, I'm working on it. All right, I'm starting out a little better than I did last night. You're tuned in for another episode of Two Lit Tuesdays right here on Endie Fiya with your girl, LaKisha. Y'all know what it is, right? It's Travel Tip Tuesdays. But guess what? If you're like me, you're not doing much traveling now, are you? Because you're paying attention and you're at home. You're adhering to all of those guidelines and regulations right now, and you're not traveling, correct? Most traveling you should be doing is from the living room to the bedroom to the kitchen, from the window to the wall, right? All right. So no traveling. All right, so what I do have for you is something that I experienced this weekend. All right, we know that, a lot of our seniors are coming up on graduations, maybe the end of May, beginning of June. And so this is prom season that we're about to go into, right? But as we all know, that's like at a standstill, okay? So my daughter graduated high school last year, and what she did was she thought that this would have been prom. This past Thursday would have been prom for all of her friends who were still in high school. So she's been talking about it, for the past couple of weeks. She's like, you know what? I really want to do like a virtual prom for my friends. So I was like, all right, cool, whatever, do whatever, I think she was serious, even though, I know my daughter. I know whatever she says she's going to do, she's going to do. And so the date got pushed back, and their prom has always been on a Thursday, like the Thursday before spring break, because, Friday they're out for Good Friday, and then that's it. So, and they know kids, they're not going to go to school the next day. And so anyway, she says, you know what, I want to do the prom on a Saturday, like give them the chance to have a prom on a Saturday. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a good idea, So anyway, Friday night, they're discussing it. They want to get the invitation sent out and everything. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, they're serious, So I said, all right, so let me get on it because, I do the little graphics or whatever, the little videos and stuff. So I'm all excited because my daughter's the host, or a host has to DJ, right? So she's all excited. I'm excited. I get the little invitation ready. We post it on social media. So I'm thinking, like, okay, where are you going to do it at? And so she says, I don't know. I'm thinking, like, Zoom. And I said, well, I have a Zoom account, but I don't know if I want y'all, on my Zoom account. Anyway, there's some stipulations with Zoom if you have a free account versus if you have a paid account. All right, so we decided Skype would be the best way to do this because, Skype, you get 4 hours free, and you can have, I think it's up to 100 people on Skype for free. All right, so they did this virtual prom. I'm going to fast forward just a little bit, okay? I'm saying all of this to say, with all of us being locked down and practicing social distancing, with proms coming up and kids, just like, hey, what am I supposed to do? This is a way for us to be able to, honor these seniors and juniors, and say to them, you've worked so hard for this. Parents may have already purchased, prom dresses, tuxedos for the young men. You know what I'm saying? Don't let this go to waste. These young ladies actually dressed up. They had on their dresses. Their faces were beat. You know what I'm saying? The young men put their suits on, and it was very, very nice. My daughter found a disco ball, and it played on our huge, I don't even know how big our television is, but it played in the background on the television. All the lights were out, in our living room. So all you saw was the huge disco ball, and, the children, the young adults, they had an amazing time. She was the DJ, and it was great. And so what I say to the parents is, find your child's favorite snack and set aside, like a little area in your house where, like they do at the prom, like you have a little, what do you call it? Little setup where they have like the food or whatever. Set that aside so that, during the midst of your child dancing or whatever, they can call it in, get a little refreshment, get a little drink or whatever. But just make it like they were really at the prom, You got to go grocery shopping this week. Buy your daughter's corsage, you know what I'm saying, dads or moms. Go ahead and pin it on her. Just do it up. My daughter's a past high school queen for the school, and so we even did like we had one of the young ladies, she was the prom queen, and then one of the guys, he was the prom king, you know what I'm saying? So it just, however you decide to do it, just do it so that these young men and young women can have something, memorable at this point, in their lives right now. Because right now it's just, there's so many uncertainties, and don't let missing out on prom be, one of those things. So that's my tip for you this Tuesday. All right? And let me know. I want to see pictures. I'm going to post my daughter's pictures, but I want to see pictures and videos of what you came up with. Because I told you, let this time be a time where a lot of us have gifts that are inside of us that during this quote-unquote downtime, we need to bring those gifts to fruition. We have so much creativity inside of us that it's just bursting at the seams to jump out of us. You know what I'm saying? So allow this time to be a time of growth for you in so many different ways. Some of y'all got gifts that you ain't even tapped in on yet, all right? So let this be the time that, you find some of those, See how crafty you can be when it comes to creating ideas for this virtual prom, all right? Let me know how that goes. I want to know. Pictures, you need ideas? I got you. You need help with graphics? I got you. Let me know, all right? We can do this, okay? But I am so glad that you're joining me this evening. Look, you know how I feel about first, right? I love to debut music first. I love to be your first interview. I love first, because to me, that's like winning an award for me. You know how our artists, they get excited, they like to win awards here on the show. When I can debut music for the first time, that's huge for me. When I can have a guest, be their first interview, that's huge for me. Tonight, I have a urban Christian fiction author on the show. We've had several of those, so that's nothing huge. But not only is she an urban Christian fiction author, she's a blogger. We've had those on the show as well, but she's also a pastor. And guys, y'all know, my regulars, y'all know I'm a PK, right? So I'm going to be on my best behavior tonight because I got a pastor in the house, right? But I've never had a pastor on the show. So you already know it's really going to get lit up in here tonight, right? Right? What I hope this show does this evening is I hope that it blesses my listening audience in so many ways. I prayed before the show, and I said, if it doesn't bless anybody, I hope it blesses me. You know what I'm saying? Let me just hush. I'm talking about my guest this evening. Her name is LaKisha Johnson. She is a urban Christian fiction author. She's a girl after God's own heart, boldly hanging one part of her purpose, and that is writing. She started writing in 2012 and has penned more than 17 novels, devotionals, and journals. You can find topics of faith, abuse, marriage, love, loss, grief, losing hope, etc. on the pages of her many, many books. Her latest series, When the Vows Break and Shattered, have ranked among Amazon's top 100 best-selling of the African-American Christian fiction genre on Amazon. In addition to being a self-published author, she's also a wife of 21 years, a mother of two, co-pastor of Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church in Hollywood, Mississippi, senior business analyst with FedEx, a devotional blogger, the product of a large family from Memphis, Tennessee, and more. She's a college graduate with 2 associate degrees in IT and a Bachelor of Science in Bible. LaKisha writes from her heart, as she hopes the messages on the pages will relate to every reader. This is why she doesn't take the credit for what God does, because if you were to strip away everything, you'd see that LaKisha is simply a woman who boldly, unapologetically, and gladly loves and works for God. Ask her, and she'll tell you, it's not just writing, it's ministry. Endie Fiya listening audience, I present to you this evening my very, very special guest, Christian fiction author, blogger, and preacher, LaKisha Johnson.
Hey, I need to hire you to introduce me.
Girl, I got you. Say less. I got you. But hold up. Because, see, we have something that we do around here that, once I introduce my guest, we're going to try this again. Because my people over there, they half asleep. Here we go. All right. Okay, here we go. Endie Fiya listening audience, I present to you this evening my very, very special guest, Christian fiction author, blogger, and preacher, LaKisha Johnson. Thank you. Y'all better wake up over there. Y'all gotta wake up. Come on. Wake up now. I want to say thank you for being able to join me here this evening. As I mentioned, with so many things going on in my life, we had to push back the time of the show for the months of April, May, and possibly June. And so you could have been anywhere this evening at this late hour, but you're here giving so freely of your time to not only myself but to my listening audience to share, what it is that you're so passionate about. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
You are so very welcome. You wear so many hats. I don't even know where I want to start because I have so many questions. When it comes to being an author, when did you first realize that, you had the gift to write?
I actually started writing back in 2012, and it wasn't something that I set out to do as far as full-term or even make a career out of it. It was just something that I did. I wrote a book, and I wrote that first book within like a month. I had written that book and then a second part to it. But I didn't actually know that this was something that I wanted to do until I think it was 2017 when God would shift me to writing Christian fiction because I realized then that He had something greater for my life when it came to writing, and it wasn't just supposed to be a hobby or something that I just did for fun. That He was going to have me use it as part of my ministry, and I didn't realize that until 2017 when He shut me down from writing altogether. I had written 2 series that were not Christian fiction at all. They had the cursing and the sex and all of that in it. And then I wrote a book with my sister called The Family That Lies that wasn't as raunchy as the first book, and it was leaning towards Christian fiction but not fully. And in 2017, He shut me down to where I couldn't write anything. I couldn't release a book. I couldn't, even if I wanted to write something, He wouldn't allow me to do it. And I didn't realize it, but He was shutting me down to restart me into Christian fiction. And that was the best thing that ever happened. Because 2018, I began to release all Christian fiction, and it was like the floodgates had opened. And I realized then that was what He had for my life.
Wow. So prior to you writing Christian fiction, you said 2017, 2018, when you were writing those books that weren't Christian fiction, that had the cursing, that had the sex scenes, were you a pastor at that time?
No. I didn't accept my calling into ministry until 2014, but I had written those books in 2012, 2013. At that point in my life, I was running from the call God had on my life. I didn't realize it then, but I was going through so much, and people always tell me, you have a calling in your life, and I was at a point I didn't want to hear that, because that meant that, I don't want to hear that. So I didn't realize it then. And writing those books, they weren't just all the way out there, but I didn't realize then that he had a call in my life. I was just doing something for fun. That we had a girls' weekend where I was with my sisters and my aunt and some of my best friends. We had a girls' weekend, and I came home and I was, still laughing and stuff about all, the fun that we had. I thought, well, let me write this book, taking some of their personalities, and I wrote A Secret Worth Keeping about 6 friends who were doing any and everything they wanted to do, one nowhere near Christian, and so I wrote that book, series of that. Then I wrote another series off that book. And then I was like, okay. And folks are saying, that's not what, somebody said, that's not what God had for you. I don't want to hear that. So didn't realize that I was actually running from the call he had on my life. So I realized in 2014 that after I accepted my calling, it took almost the full year of 2014 to accept the calling, because I was like, okay, God, I write these books. They got, sex and stuff in it. I don't look like the normal person, that what you would call to preach, because I got tattoos. I wear these high heels and these fishnet stockings. You sure? You sure you calling me? and he did. And I didn't realize what he was doing in my life, but I'm glad that I eventually stopped running.
So when you wrote those, I'm going somewhere with this, I promise. When you wrote those books, did you write under your name, or did you have, a pen name that you wrote under?
No, I've always written under my name. And believe it or not, there's still some people who has those old. Since then, I've taken those books and rewritten them. I flipped them to Christian, but at that particular time, I was under a publisher, and you had people who loved those books, and because during that time, that type of thing was a big seller around that time. So those books fit that particular time, and they fit where I was in my life at that time. So I don't take anything from that, but I knew that once everything changed for me and my writing changed, I knew I no longer wanted to write that, because my whole life had changed and I wasn't there anymore. But those books were still with a publisher, so because they were still with a publisher, they were still out there. So I didn't get the rights back to those until last year. So they had been out there the whole time, even with me, accepting my call to ministry and, preaching and doing all those books were still out there. And I don't think it took anything away from who I was, because if you follow me on social media, then what you see on social media is who I am. So I don't portray to be anybody other than who I am. And I tell people all the time, either you're going to accept me for who I am or you're not. So I'm not going to apologize for who I am and the way I live. So those books were still out, and you still have some people who still have old copies of them, even though I've taken them. Even though when I got the rights back, I took them down and, changed them all up. You still got people who are still reading those books. And I was like, oh, Lord, these people still read. But, there's still some people reading them. So I was like, okay. That's not who I am anymore. But I do some of my books, even the Christian fiction books, some of them still have some cursing. I have a book that's called The Pastor's Admin, and it's kind of out there, but that's because the pastor was living a double life, doing any and everything he wanted to do. So I try to write realistically, and I want people to. And I want people to see even in the book that even though, we say we Christian, we still doing unchristian-like things.
Right.
I don't want to write a book that's so unrealistic to where you got somebody walking around, always holy and all, blessed and highly favored when that's not reality.
Right.
So there is some. So in my books, you will have some cursing and something because that's what some of us still do. Even though we are Christians, some of us still have those tendencies because we live in flesh. When I write realistically.
And I was speaking with an artist last night, and I think a lot of artists, they go through the same thing when it comes to writing the lyrics of their songs, and how a lot of artists are now having to be more transparent with their lyrics because people are so used to, gold chains and talking about, the drugs and, shooting off nines and, people who have never shot a nine before and, you know what I'm saying? But it's a part of what people are used to. And so that's how they write their lyrics. And so I understand what you say about us as Christians and living, in the flesh. It's hard. Somebody was joking with me this evening. They saw a post and they said, "You're going to have a pastor on the show this evening?" And I said, "Wait, hold on. Why do you have to say it like that?" It's because they emphasize the word. I mean, they put so much emphasis on the word pastor. They drug that out. And I said, well, yeah. And they said, you? And I said, yeah. I know how to behave, you know what I'm saying? I'm not like that all the time. So I can pull it back in, I get ratchet when I need to, but, I know how to pull it back in. So I do believe that is important, especially in reading, and I try to explain that to people. When it comes to the Bible, reading the Bible, and I hate to use this word, but they have dumbed it down so that everyone can relate to the Bible now. I like to stick with the King James Version because that's what I was brought up on. But you can get the the version of the Bible that now reads just like we speak, so that you're able to understand it on your level. And so when it comes to reading a book now, even though you choose not to, you want to still read novels, and you want to stick with the Christian fiction genre, but you also know that, this is life and this is reality and these things go on. And so it's good to have an author that is able to incorporate real life scenarios into what they write about and not just, strictly this is how we live in the church, because as Christians, we know that things aren't always by the book. So it's good to have an author who can incorporate, things, real life situations in their writing. What did you say the name of that book was? Because I might need The Pastor's Admin. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all got that?
Because I believe that you have to reach people where they are, and not all of us are King James Version Christians. No matter how much we want to, we want to act like we are. No matter how much, how good we dress on Sundays or how well we speak in tongues, all that type of thing. A lot of us are not those type. Are not that person. So we want to act like that. Once we get saved and sanctified and full of the Holy Spirit, that we ain't never had a past. But we all have a past, regardless of what we've done. We all have a past, and we still sometimes, because guess what? In some of my books, you may see a husband and wife arguing over something, and one of them get mad enough to to curse, or they felt like they've been wrong. So something may happen there because you're still dealing with the part of life in reality, and things happen. So to sit and say, so, and a lot of people always say in my books that, I have to get a pen and paper because you got these scriptures and you breaking them down, and it's not because I know everything, it's because I'm learning I'm learning. And I tell anybody that I don't know everything, but I study. So, and when I understand something, I want people to understand it too. So in my books, you'll see a lot of scripture, but you'll also see those broken down. So I don't just plug a scripture in and just put it in just to be using it. I put it in to make it make sense, so that when the person reading it, they can know too. So like in one of the books that I have is 2:32 a.m. dealing with a mother who lost her baby. And the same night she lost her baby, she lost her faith. So you have to be able to get back to finding your faith again, going through this grieving process. And though, and in that book, there's plenty of times where she didn't want to pray because she felt she was mad at God. So because she had lost her faith. So we have to deal with all those things. And I can't just write a book and say, it'll be good. You'll go a couple of months, your baby died, you go a couple of months, go through your grief, and then you get on with it. No, you have to go through the process because the grief of death is also the same as grieving a relationship that you lost. That's the same thing too, because you still have to go through that grief because you've lost something. And so So that's the way when I come to start writing a book, I write it because I want every book to have a message that somebody can get something out of, not just to say I'm writing. So I don't write for profit. I write because it's part of my purpose. And so you'll see it on the pages of the book. It's not for everybody, but it's for those that it need to reach. And I rewrote those books that I wrote prior to me accepting my calling into ministry. When I got them back at the beginning of, I want to say 2019 or 18, when I got the rights back, I knew I couldn't just publish those books because I wasn't writing in that style anymore. So I took those books and I rewrote them, and I changed them to When the Vows Break. And if you check Amazon, those books have been in the top. When the Vows Break Part 1 is still number 1, and I had no idea that it would do that. Only thing I was doing was being obedient to God. I got those rights back. I had been wanting those rights back and couldn't get them, and then something happened to where she had to give them back to me. And when I got them back, I changed. Kept the same characters and almost the same storyline, but I prayed and asked God, okay, God, what would you have me to call this? He gave me When the Vows Break, and turned it into a 3-part series dealing with 6 friends who are all dealing with stuff. One of them thought it was only them going through hell, but realized all of them were going through hell at the same time. And every person has a different personality, a different issue, but somewhere along the line, when somebody reads it, they're going to relate to either one person or 2 or 3 of them. But not all of them have happy endings. Some of them got divorced. There was death involved, but they all came to a point of knowing that they had to get back to God because somewhere along the way they had left him somewhere. And they knew that in order to get back to him, they had to go back to where they left him. So that's how I write. But it's just me. That's because writing for me is ministry.
Wow, that's interesting that you were speaking about faith, because that's in the direction that I was just about to go to when you started talking about faith. I saw on your page, your Facebook page earlier, that you were going to go live tonight and talk about the coronavirus. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you did it or not, but I see so many posts on social media daily from different people who still, they're still questioning if this virus is real. And I don't know how, with the numbers the way that they are, with the confirmed cases, with the numbers of deaths, with the numbers of recovery, how important is it for an individual to not stay so centered around looking at what they see on social media, but stay grounded in their faith in a time like this right here?
I actually spoke. I actually did a live on last week. Somebody had asked me to do a live on fear and anxiety in the midst of chaos. And we spoke about that because you have a lot of people who, you have those who ain't taking it serious, and then you have those who are so fearful of this virus that they won't leave the house. Their anxiety is at an all-time high because they don't know what to do or don't understand. And so when I did that particular live, I talked about spiritual toolkits. I explained that we have a kit for everything else. We have a first aid kit. We have a sewing kit. We have a tool kit at the house. They got hammers and nails. We got something in the car that may be able to fix a flat tire. But where do we go when we need help spiritually? And so a lot of times we don't know. We get so caught up in what's happening that we don't know where to go spiritually. So I talked about creating a spiritual toolkit. And in the spiritual toolkit, it was actually something that I'm going to teach at our church, where each household creates this spiritual toolkit. And I got a toolbox, and in that toolkit, we got a Bible, a journal, anointing oil, a mustard seed, a rock that signifies God as the rock of our salvation, some charms that show the different the spiritual armor that we have to put on, like shoes of peace and all that. So that you'll be able to go into this box and see and find what you need, whether it's the Word of God, whether it's some oil to anoint your house or your body, whether it's this mustard seed when you feel like your faith is failing, when God says all you need is faith the size of a mustard seed, whether it's a rock to let you know that God is still the rock of our salvation, that if we trust in Him, He'll do whatever it is we need to do. So those type of things is what we have to depend on even when we're living in uncertain times. Because we're living in a world now where this virus comes and it's killing thousands of people. And, daily, you got so many people dying and you don't know. You got essential workers who are still leaving, going to work, don't know if they're going to bring it back home to their families, so they're worried. You got people who are worried about their essential workers who have to leave. Then you're worried about those who already have a condition and may contract this and may not live. So you're dealing with all those things. And in order to keep your mind, you have to keep your mind stayed on God to say that if God brought me to this, I know that He's going to bring me through it. Because the Bible tells me that if I stay in the shelter of the Most High, that He'll deliver me from everything that comes against me. That even though there's a deadly disease outside, it won't affect me or my house. That it'll pass me over, just like the death angel did in Israel when they was trying to kill the firstborn. That I got to trust and believe that God will do all He said He'll do. And that's what we have to do. We have to believe that God is going to keep us safe, that He's going to keep our mind, He's going to keep us whole, and that He won't allow anything to hurt us. That even if we do get sick, that He still got the power to heal.
That's right. Woo. Y'all got that? Did you get it? The spiritual toolkit. All right. She said the Bible, the journal, the anointing oil, the mustard seed, a rock, and did you say charm?
The charm for the full armor of God. I ordered them from Etsy, and they got where you can buy all the charms. It has one for the sword, the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness. It has all of those. It has a charm for all of them, just so that you'll know that if I get up in the morning and put this on, that I'll be able to withstand everything that happens to me. And you can put anything else in your toolkit that you think you may need. Those are some. Oh, and I also have a grace card. And the grace card is where you extend grace to somebody the same way God extends grace to us. But you can put whatever else in there that you think you may need, just something that whenever you open this box that you'll be able to get what you need from God. And I tell people always to keep a journal, because when you ask of God, God speaks. And something, so you can have something to write on, because God will speak. If you ask God to answer a question or you ask God to give you direction for your life, He'll give it. But you have to be in tune enough to hear it. So that's why I say a journal. But you can put whatever else, and it doesn't have to be a necessary toolbox. It can be whatever you want to put it in. But put in what you know that you need so that when you're finding yourself faced with uncertainty or chaos or confusion, that you go to this toolkit and get what you need.
All right, crafty people. I need y'all to get to working on these tools. Never mind, because some of y'all, never mind. Never mind. I know some of the people I deal with. Never mind. All right. So, never mind. I'm going to turn this over to the praying part of the church, and those are the ones that's going to work on the toolkits. All right. The rest of y'all, we'll pass them out to you guys, okay? Crafty people. All right. So, LaKisha, I want to ask you, what was an early experience where you learned that language and your words had power?
Oh. Believe it or not, in one of the books, I think it was Broken. I wrote a church scene where I had this service called Surviving Me. And most times when I write things in the book, people say, "Oh, you helped me." They realize I'm helping myself because God is speaking through me, dealing with me, even when I'm writing. But I wrote a thing called Surviving Me. Never realized that it would take on a thing to where it would actually mean that I needed to change the language of some things that I had spoken. And Surviving Me ended up turning into where I had a actual worship service in February called Surviving Me. And I called it a divorce edition because I realized that most times we're our own worst enemy because we're speaking things that we don't realize have power. I can't stand for my daughter to say, I hate it here. Because I tell her all the time, your words have power. You keep posting on my nerves. And I can't stand, but we have to learn that because we don't realize that when we say, them folks making me sick, that we actually speaking those type of things. But it's what we've been accustomed to saying, all these years. And I realized that our language had to change. In order to survive who we are, the flesh part of us, our language had to change, and my language had to change. And it's the same thing when it came to me writing books. I realized that the earlier books I wrote in 2012 and 13, that my language had to change from those because I have people reading those books, and I tell God, if I can get people to you by any means necessary, even if it happens to be on the pages of a fiction book, then I'll do it. But my language had to change. My language couldn't stay the same as I was doing when I was writing in 2012 and 13. My language couldn't stay the same because I don't think people are going to read from that. It takes, that's just the flesh. It's going to reach their flesh and nothing more. I need to pierce more past the flesh. And in order for me to do that, my language had to change. So I'm learning that actually every day. Every day I'm learning that my language has to change. And it took me going through the shutdown in 2017 and not being able to write and then God shifting. Because when I got ready to release a book, February 2018, I released Dear God, Hear My Prayer. And it was the first full Christian book that didn't have sex and all of that. And I was worried, saying, okay, God, this ain't what I normally write. I don't know how people going to feel, knowing that, this is a book that ain't got no sex and no vulgar language and all this. Okay, God, I don't know if they're going to be ready for this from me because I'm the same person that just released these, a few years ago.
Right.
But, dear God, and I'm nervous because I was like, okay, God, I'm going to release this book because you told me to release it. And it was one of the best sellers because, and here I am thinking, I'm worried. And God saying, all you got to do is trust me. Yeah, I'm changing your language. Yeah, I'm changing, what you are comfortable with. But if you just trust me. And because I trusted him, it took on a whole other dynamic. And here I am worried, God, these folks ain't going to read this. They used to me with all this raunchy stuff and these women bed hopping and all this. And now you want me to do Christian books? Okay. okay, if you say so. And it turned out to be the best thing. All I had to do was be obedient.
That's hard, you know. I know all about the running, the running, the running. You know, I mentioned before, you know, the I would say 90% of the individuals in my family, you know, they're apostles, evangelists, you know, bishops, ministers, you know. And I like to tell people, I don't know if I say this because it makes me feel good or if it's actually true, but I always tell people that we are all gifted with a ministry. I never said that we're all gifted to be ministers, but I always believe that we're all gifted with a ministry, and it is for each one of us to tap into what our God-given ministry is. I found mine a long time ago, and I feel like mine is to serve individuals, and I do so in many, many, many capacities. I don't believe mine is to be in the church, you know. And don't get me wrong, you know, I still do what my obligations in the church, you know. I still do those, but I'm not like the rest of my family. You know what I'm saying? I'm black sheep, so I'm not like them. But I know all about the running. But I want to talk about losing hope. Somebody just sent me a question. How and it applies to me too. Not now, not in this phase of my life, but it has applied in my life. And so, but the question that they just sent, you know, they were in the church for some time. I'm going to paraphrase. They were in the church for some time, and they've gone through a lot of things in their lives. And so they're at a point right now where they have just lost hope. What can they do to bring them back to where they know they need to be with God?
I actually, believe it or not, I just did, before your show, I did a live of my biblical study on surviving me. And when we're in a place of losing hope, because of, you know, whatever it is, when we lose hope because of things that, you know, have happened to us, or because sometimes we lose hope because we're mad at God for allowing things to happen. Sometimes, you know, we lose hope because we see things and we don't understand why things have to be the way they are. And the only way that you can get back to God after losing hope, you have to try Him again. And I know it may seem like it don't make sense, but in order for me to know if my car stops and I'm sitting on the side of the road, the only way I know if my car still won't start, I have to try it again. And the only way that we know that God will do what He said He does, even though we've left Him, even though we've lost faith and lost hope, and even though we probably haven't prayed to Him like we should have, even though, you know, we haven't gone to church or paid tithes, or even though we haven't been devoted, and we've lost all this hope, and so we're feeling at a place where God probably ain't going to listen to me. The only way we'll know for sure, we have to try Him again. And no matter what it is that has happened that has caused you to lose hope, God is still there. God is still willing to forgive. God is still willing to accept us back in, and God is a restorer of hope. But the only way we can get our hope restored, we have to try Him again. And He ain't going to leave us, even though we turn our back on Him, even though we run, even though we are disobedient, even though, you know, we're set in our ways. God will still say, if you come back to me and you repent and you tell me that you want me, I'm going to show up for you. So if you feel like you don't have hope and you're trying to get back to God, try Him again. And that may start with, God, forgive me. Forgive me for thinking that I can do this on my own. Forgive me for thinking that, forgive me for trying to be something that I know I wasn't. Forgive me, God, for being stagnant in my ways, or forgive me for turning my back on you. And then say, God, now I'm ready. I want to try you again. That may hurt somebody's feelings when you go to a person to say, I know I walked away from you, but give me another chance. And they say,
right.
You don't try everything else. Now you won't come back to me as the last option. Man may tell you no, but God will say, I'm right here waiting.
But God won't.
God won't. So if you've lost hope or you're trying to get back to God, all you gotta do is try Him again. If you call Him, He'll answer. No matter how many times that you've walked away from Him or ignored Him, if you call Him, He'll still answer because He has a responsibility to answer because He created us. And a lot of people think that, you ain't supposed to question God. We can question God because God is our manufacturer. And if God created us and we got questions about something that He created, we can question God. And a lot of people get that wrong to say we can't question God, but we can. And if there's something that you're toiling with that you don't understand, talk to God about it. Question Him about it. God, why did you let this happen? But be ready for His answer. Because sometimes God will say, I allow it to happen because you wouldn't move. Or I allowed this to happen because I told you to sever that relationship, but you weren't strong enough, so I had to sever it for you. So be ready to get the answer. So if you question Him, be ready to get the answer because He's going to answer. But if you find yourself losing hope, go back to God. Talk to God. Give Him all of this, and then allow Him to restore you, and He will.
Sweetheart, I hope I paraphrased the question the way that you asked the question, and I know that she answered it the way that you were trying to ask the question. If you're just tuning in, you're live right here on Two It Tuesdays on Endie Fiya with your girl LaKisha and my very, very special guest, Christian fiction author, pastor, blogger, LaKisha Johnson. Guys, if you want to call in, you got questions this evening, the number is 929-477-1320, or you can shoot me a message like the last young lady did if you have questions for Miss LaKisha Johnson, all right? In Christian fiction, how do you balance keeping the message strong while still writing to reach your readers beyond the Christian bookstore and beyond the church?
Believe it or not, just by keeping it real, I realize that if I don't try to make it something that it's not, then it'll reach the heart of those it needs to reach. So I don't try to make an unrealistic story. I don't try to make fill it with all this fluff and all of that. So a lot of people always ask in some books why did they have to get divorced? Because reality is some people get divorced. So not every book is a happy ending. Not every story is a happy ending because realistically stuff happens. Sometimes folks get canceled. Sometimes folks die. Sometimes folks get, they go through, So I keep it real. And anybody will tell you that if you read one of my books, then you will see it. I deal with a lot of things. A lot of things I haven't gone through, but I write what God gives me to write. Like with Dear God, Jamie was dealing with being abused by her father, who was her stepfather, who was a pastor. So she found herself being angry with God and all of this for years because she didn't understand why the same man that God called, He would allow him to hurt her. So but I'm telling you, the only way that I can reach people is by keeping it real because that's who I am. I'm at a point to where even when people ask me questions, I keep it real. When I get emails from people saying, will you pray for me because I'm going through this, I can't sugarcoat it to make you think that everything is going to be okay. I got to tell you the real and raw of it because I need you to understand that sometimes things happen. Sometimes it may not happen the way you want, but I don't want you to be upset and mad at God because here you are, me telling you a lie, telling you that everything's going to be all right. Now, some things may not be all right. Some things you may have to go through. So I always, because I would want somebody to be honest with me. I don't want you to just tell me that, God is good all the time and He gonna come through to see about me. Yeah, He is, but I may have to stay in my custom for a little while longer. So I don't want I don't want to just say, just tell somebody, oh, it'll be all right in the morning. And then here morning comes and you don't see it. Now you pissed off at the world.
Same,
you mad at God. Right. So I say, yeah, God gonna show up, but He'll show up in due time. You just have to wait to see it. So the only way that I can reach Him is keeping it real and raw, and that's what I'm unapologetic about. I don't try to write like anybody else. I don't try to be anybody else. I don't try to speak and preach like anybody else. I can only do what God has called me to do.
Why do you feel that some readers shy away from reading Christian fiction? Even with an author like you, who does keep it real, you know what I'm saying? And in your books you do incorporate, real life scenarios. You still have those who just say, no, that's not for me. Why do you think that?
That's because you have some people who've been raised up to have a certain perception of church and preachers. So you have those who think that preachers they're hypocrites. They live one way outside the church, then live one way on Sundays, or the preacher taking all the tithes, so I ain't taking no tithe money, or you can't tell me nothing about the Bible, God allowed. So you have some people whose perception of religion and who God is, that they won't read a Christian fiction book because they don't want to hear nothing about God and all this, because that's I don't want to hear none of that. And I respect people's opinion. I have some people who think that a Christian book shouldn't have cursing or shouldn't have sex, or even if it's between. I had one person say one of my books that was a relationship between a husband and a wife, and that she didn't understand why I had sex in the book. It was a husband and a wife. And, and I was like, and so my response to people like that is, how you think little Christians be here if the big Christians ain't doing that? I mean, the store ain't dropping them off, but you got some people who feel like, a Christian book shouldn't have this and it shouldn't have this, but that's the way we live in, even them. So, so I allow people to have their own opinions, do you, boo, because I ain't going to be mad at you. So I allow people to have their own opinion of Christian fiction, but you do have some people who are just who are set in their perception, and it's what they've been taught. Because I have so many people say they don't believe in women preachers, and I don't believe in half them Negroes either. So we even.
Right.
So we even. You don't believe in me, I don't believe in you either. I believe in God, so we even.
Right.
So. It's their perception. It's their perception.
Now, I know that you wear so many hats: a self-published author, a wife, a mother, a co-pastor, a senior business analyst, a blogger. How do you stay disciplined and not get distracted when it comes to your writing?
Prayer. I have to pray a lot, and I don't get. I can't, because sometimes I don't want to write. Sometimes I want to come home, get on the couch, and binge watch TV. But I know that there's something that God has, so I have to be mindful of that. This is not just for me. So because if I be selfish, then I wouldn't put out another book because I'm too busy. Being distracted by, wanting to hang out. But that also changed when it came to ministry, too, because ministry also changed the dynamic of my life. So I incorporate writing the same as ministry, because I tell people the same way a sermon is a release to a pastor, the same way a book is to me, because it's part of my ministry. And I know that if God has given me something, that somebody needs it. So I could be selfish and say I write it when whenever I feel like it. But in the back of my mind, I'm saying if God has given me this, then that means somebody needs it. And who am I to sit on what He has given me? So I make time, even when I don't feel like it. I spend at least an hour a day trying to write something. And sometimes I shut up in my office for the whole Saturday. in writing. If I know, because I know that I could be selfish and say, I don't feel like I'm going to hang out with, my sister and them and do whatever we're going to do, or I'll be obedient to God and allow him to download this message in me that I can get out, and then I have time to spend with them. So I just balance it. I know, because I know there has to be a reason God has given me what he's given me to write. So I just take the time and get rid of the distractions, because if not, I'll be laying on the couch in the living room watching Netflix.
Now, as a writer, an author, does it spill over into your ministry as a pastor as well? Do you write your sermons is what I'm trying to ask. I remember back in the day, and I don't knock it, but I do knock it, because I remember back in the day when I was small, how, my bishop used to get up and he would preach the house down. He would get up, he would give his text, this is where I'm coming from, and he would read the scripture and he would just preach, and that would be the end of it. You know what I'm saying? And now it's like, and you were anointed, God called you to preach, and then that was just it. Now it's like all of these seminaries and theology schools, and everyone has their sermon on their iPad. And my mother, I'm talking about you, you know what I'm saying? Even my pastor, his sermon is on his iPad now, and the night before they got to get their sermon ready. And so how do you preach on Sunday mornings? Is your sermon ready on Saturday night?
Yeah.
Or does it come straight from the dome on Sunday morning? How do you preach?
No, I actually write. I actually write mine down. Even though when I do preach, there's always added stuff added in that's not on my tablet. But no, I have to write. That's just the way. Now my pastor, who is also my uncle, he could stand up, read the scripture, and he can preach the same way. But me, I have to write. I have to write mine down. It's just but sometimes I don't write. Just like tonight when I did the Bible study tonight, I didn't write anything. It was just listening to him, allowing God to use me. But some nights I have to write notes. So it just depends.
And I could look at like the older generations in the church. This modern technology to them is just kind of like, So the first time somebody stepped in the pulpit with an iPad, it was just kind of like, what are they doing? The look on their face now is hilarious. I mean, they're used to it now because, once you get what you've written down out of the way, of course, the Holy Spirit takes over, and then you just go at it from there. But, the initial part of your message, the teaching part, I think, my mother likes to call it teaching. She writes all of that down, and that's the teaching part of her sermon. And then, once God really starts to use her, then, of course, everything is just, straight out her mouth. But I thought that's very interesting. I didn't know if you had to write, your messages out as well. I want to go ahead and give you the opportunity to go ahead and get all of your contact information out. We're down to the end of the show now. Get all your contact information out for those who may be listening live, for those who may come back and listen to one of the many playback shows, how they can get in contact with you. If they're in the Mississippi area, they want to stop by and visit Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church in Hollywood, Mississippi. If they want to catch you on Facebook, doing any devotional services, if, for whatever reason, if they want to purchase your books, for whatever reason it is, they would need to get in contact with Ms. LaKisha Johnson. The floor is now yours to get all of your contact information out.
Most of my social media handles are the same. Facebook, my personal page is LaKisha Johnson, LaKisha. You may be able to find it by Facebook.com, Keisha D. Johnson. I also have an author page. It's Facebook.com/author LaKisha. Instagram is Keisha Johnson. Twitter is _Keisha Johnson. You can reach me by email at authorlakisha@gmail.com, AUTHORLAKISHA. My devotional blog is Keisha's Daily Devotional, KISHAS dailydevotional.com, or my site, authorlakishajohnson.com. So you can basically find me on any one of those platforms. I have all of my contact information in the back of all the books, and you can send me a request on Facebook, or follow me on Twitter or Instagram, or email me. I respond to all emails. If you have prayer requests or questions or whatever it is you may need, if you inbox me on social media, I respond. So I feel like I'm never too far that I can't respond to somebody who's took their time to reach out to me. So that's who I am. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and what you see is who I am. I don't pretend to be anybody other than who I am. So what you see is what you get.
Boom, there you go. You heard her. What you see is what you get. And guys, she is married, so don't just slide up in her inbox just trying to holler at her, all right? She's a woman of God. You know, you gotta tell some people that, because they come in on the tail end, and so they only hear message me. I will respond to all messages. That's all they heard. That's all right, guys. You know, y'all be mindful of what you say. All right,
absolutely.
Guys, make sure you are right back here on Thursday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember, new time. That's the coronavirus time. All right, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will have hip-hop R&B artist Shanice Rachel will be here, but she's talking about the new show that she has coming up very soon. We're going to do some cross-promoting. She's going to be on this show again, and I'm going to be on her show. So that's 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday the 16th. Yeah? Yes. And then back on Monday, make sure that you join Casto Moore for Monday Motivations on My Struggle is My Strength at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on Endie Fiya. All right? If you cannot make them all, please, please, please do not miss them all. Make sure that you are following the show on all social media platforms at Endie Fiya. You guys know who I am. You know where I am. Subscribe to the website, www.indiefireradio.com. And again, for New Music Monday submission, make sure that you click on the tab that says New Music Monday submission. Follow all the steps, and you have to upload your music, okay? It does us no good to get a name, a track name, and your location if we have no track. So you got to upload your track if you want your song in rotation. All right, guys? Until Thursday, thank you so much, Pastor LaKisha Johnson. I look forward to doing many, many, many more things with you. You blessed my soul tonight. You guys,
amen. Thank you.
Have a good night. You are so very welcome.